difference.
Washington County Commissioners Court is now in session Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023 at 9 a.m. Commissioner Bullock.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Today we've got Mike Lindstrom with First United Methodist to lead us in our invocation.
Let's bow together. Most holy God, creator of all that is, one in whom all authority resides, we pray over this meeting of our community leaders and citizens, and we pray, O God, for your spirit of wisdom and justice, compassion and kindness to be poured out. May all the decisions made here today be of great benefit to our community. May they all point to your goodness. We pray it in Christ Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join us in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Item number 3, discuss and possibly act upon the approval of pending Washington County Expo rental regulations contracts. This morning we have 3 of those, and they're all for birthday parties. 3 of them.
I'll move upon the approval of the Washington County pending Expo rental regulations, contracts, and authorize the county judge to sign.
A second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, discuss and possibly act upon approval of Sheriff's Office monthly report. Pete Trash?
Good
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Fine. Feet hit the floor, we all right. Just a pretty standard, we'll kind of look at page 1. I think y'all probably aware we had a kind of a string of burglaries in the county last month. Those 3 are now in jail that we figure committed all of them. Kind of a traveling band of out-of-towners. So they're in jail right now in Lee County. Under their charges, we'll bring them back for ours whenever they're through with them, I assume, or make bond, whatever. Also, if you look at the second page, you'll see an uptick in most everything. I will tell you sheriff's vacancies, just kind of upgrade everybody on that. We have 2 openings for patrol and 2 openings in the jail section for deputies, and 1 for transport and 1 for courthouse security. We're still trying to find someone to apply for all 4 positions.
Okay, because it says 6, so there's only 2 in the jail?
No, we have 9 openings for jailers. We have 2 deputy sheriff openings, 1 still for transport
And
for
then
for Daniel Gaskamp, who retired a year and a half ago,
Okay,
and 1 for the new courthouse security position.
okay.
So we're still looking at those. So there's 4 certified officers we're looking for. 9, well, should be 8. We just hired, I think the young lady starts Wednesday, tomorrow.
But it says current, 6,
6.
well, the report says 6 current openings, jail vacancies. Is there
Yes,
an error there?
current is 9 is what I see.
Oh,
Is there,
No.
Said previous is 9.
Previous is 9, current is 6 on the report.
okay, I stand corrected then, because mine says 8 and 9. 8 previous, 9 current, so
Okay.
unless they corrected
We'll
something,
go with
since
yours.
y'all,
You have the
unless they
report in
sent
your
yours, sent that up before they made a correction.
Maybe
Okay.
so. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry about that.
That's all
I
right.
will
That's
check
okay.
with
We just
Helen
want
and see.
clarification. That's good.
Yeah. The other, you can see an uptick in a little bit of everything going on, adult arrest. Calls skyrocketed on us for whatever reason. Same thing with case reports. But a lot of that is from the enforcement part of it. Other than that, doing pretty good. We're just still, right now, we're kind of take it as it comes. You can see an uptick in calls to Burton in that area, things like that. So warrant served was down from the previous month, but you can all see that adult arrests were up by a lot. We're catching so much coming through Brenham area, 290, back roads, all that, so.
And then it looks like y'all have a donation.
Correct. We need to vote on this one.
I make a motion to approve the sheriff's office monthly report.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in
No.
favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Judge, Commissioners, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item number 5, discussing a formal notice for utility installation for a temporary above-ground lay-flat water line for Geo Southern Operating LLC for McNelly Lane, Deer Point Road, and Hodeville School Road, all in Precinct 3. Mr. Stokes?
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
So this first one is going to be a notice for a lay-flat line that's primarily going to be traversing 390 to go between two reservoirs that are operated by Geo Southern. The reason that we're bringing it forward today is that there are going to be a couple little offshoots off of 390 so that they can actually go underneath the culverts, because that's where the actual drainage crossings are on our roads. The only thing I'd like to actually amend with this one is that instead of Hodeville School Road, it's at the intersection for Hodeville School Road and 390, but they're actually going to be traversing north on the culvert, which will actually be Beaver Road. So it will be Beaver Road that they're actually going to be coming down. Each one of these segments is approximately 600 foot to 1,200 feet. So enough to obviously notice it, but nothing as substantial as we've seen in the past.
I make a motion to approve the, we don't, it's just a notice?
Yes.
And since you're, since
You
you're
wanna make an
changing what's in our
amendment?
packet, do we need to make a motion to amend what he just said?
Yes, I would amend the agenda item.
All right. And that amendment is
Is that instead of Hodeville School Road, it will be traversing Beaver Road.
Beaver
Okay.
Road.
I so move on that amendment. I need a second.
I second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, discuss and possibly act upon an application for a revision of a plat for Andrade subdivision, considering an order to permit the revision of Lot 3 in the A-0098 James Schreier Survey, Precinct 2.
Yes, this is another replat similar to what we saw a couple weeks ago, where we had to do a 30-day notice for the amendment to a plat per Texas statute. This particular one that we have in front of us today does not appear to be any kind of public interest, as it's just a separation between Lot 3 of the original Andrade subdivision into Lot 3A and 3B. The original lot is 2.141 acres. This will break it into 1.141 and in a separate 1 acre tract. They are served by public water in this area, and we do not see any real issue with this amendment
Okay.
to the plat.
I make a motion to approve the application for revision of a plat for Andrade subdivision, considering an order to permit the revision of Lot 3 in the A-0098 James Schreier Survey, Precinct 2.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, discuss and possibly act upon the approval of a plat revision for Andrade subdivision, Lot 3, in the 0098 James Schreier Survey, Precinct 2.
This will actually be the actual order to approve said replat going forward.
Right. I make a motion to approve of a plat revision for Andrade subdivision, Lot 3 in the 0098 James Schreier Survey, Precinct 2.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, discuss the preliminary presentation of a residential development, Orchard Oaks subdivision consisting of 98.505 acres in the A-001 Elijah Alcorn Survey, Precinct 3.
Yes, so this is a new application. This is the preliminary plat that you're going to be seeing with this one. This is a 98.5 acre parent tract that the intention is to break this up into 15 separate lots going forward. The overall road that would be traversing through this property would be approximately 2,000 feet in length. The minimum acreage that's been proposed is 1.502, but it actually goes all the way up to 24.865. They're averaging, the actual average is approximately 6.356, but most of the lots in there about 2, give or take, is kind of what we're seeing in there. They are intending to utilize an existing drainage facility out there and make some amendments to that to mitigate any impervious cover that will be added to the site and offset any drainage downstream to the New Year's Creek watershed.
Is there a motion?
It's just
I said
a
presentation.
Oh,
presentation,
excuse me,
right?
it's just a discussion, you're exactly right. Item number 9, discuss and possibly act upon an oil and gas development permit for Magnolia Oil and Gas LLC on Hardstack Road, Carmine, Precinct 4.
Yeah, so this is an application for an oil and gas development permit over off Hardstack Road. The route that has been submitted would be utilizing Upshaw, North Hopstraw Street, as well as Cather Road to actually get back over to Hardstack. At the same time, we're going to be videoing a few other routes just to be on the safe side, because one thing we've seen in the past is that even though this is conveyed to a lot of these drivers, they're contractors, they're trying to just take their map, and sometimes they don't always do these perfectly. So we will be monitoring each one of these. We haven't actually taken the recording yet because this just recently came in, but it should be this week that we'll have that condition assessment on each one of those roads that can go back to Hardstack.
So how does that work in that bond process if that's not their detailed route, but they're using it? How do you make sure that they're
So there's
liable?
wording in the agreement that essentially states that they are to give us a route, but that does not mean that they are strictly bound to damages of that route. So if we do see that these trucks are actually traversing other routes and there is damage subsequent to that, the agreement does state that it's not bound just to the route that you've given us, but any damage that's corresponding to this permit.
Perfect. I make a motion to approve the oil and gas permit for Magnolia Oil and Gas LLC on Hardstack Road, Carmine, Precinct 4.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, discuss and possibly act upon the purchase of two 2024 Mack dump trucks from Buckner Truck Sales for the Engineering Development Services Department through a state cooperative purchasing program, HGAC, contract number HT06-20.
Yeah, so we've been working on getting quotes put together for some equipment for a little while now. Commissioner Kester has been helping us with this, which has actually been extremely helpful. One of the things we've noticed is that there's two things that have drastically changed from the previous way we used to operate. Number one, vehicles are hard to come by, equipment's hard to come by. Number two, equipment costs have gone up. But what we've seen with this one is that we were able to get two quotes with this one after months of essentially begging for any kind of quote that we could get off of this. The one that is the lowest, which is a state board pricing, did come from Bruckner. The price per each for these vehicles is $179,693. And this would be to replace an existing 1993 dump truck as well as an existing 1996 dump truck. So they're approximately 30 years old, and we've been doing a lot of repairs on these, and we've been noticing the price tag of those repairs go up and up each year, and we believe it's time to start saying, instead of spending the money on repairs, it's time to start spending money on new equipment.
Agree with that.
I'll move upon the purchase of two 2024 Mack dump trucks from Buckner Truck Sales for the Engineering and Development Services Department through a state cooperative purchasing program, HGAC, contract number HT06-20.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I think we need to have the conversation about how, because I know there's been some conversations about how we're gonna fund it. We haven't had that conversation yet. I know, Wesley, you and I talked, we evaluated some of the numbers about possibly financing. We compared that also from pulling from fund balance, which we receive about 4.9% interest on. So my understanding, the delta, but of course that would include items 10, 11, and 12, correct?
Yes, so based on what we have here, we've already had two other major purchases in this line item. One of which is the final finance payment for the motor graders that were purchased in I believe 2021. I wasn't here at that time, but I believe it was 21. That is the final payment for that one. The other one is an F-350 chassis, which essentially is going to be for the service truck that's going to go out to repair equipment out in the field.
That was the 46,290 that's
Yes,
gonna be
ma'am.
coming?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. The other ones are 10, 11, 12 that's going to be presented today. Now, with the final finance payment of the motor graders as well as the chassis, paying those out, if we finance this equipment that's under 10, 11, and 12 through this year, 2024, and 2025, so essentially we'll make a 33% down payment and then do financing for the rest of the 67%, then we will make our budget for this year within what we
wouldn't
have budgeted.
We wouldn't have to do a budget amendment. is the
Correct.
point.
Exactly right.
And then the item would be, how do we finance? Do we go out of the reserves? And the number that I have from a conservative side is approximately 4.9% going forward. We went ahead and spoken to a few banks just to get some very early numbers, just to kind of figure out what that would look like if we were to go out and advertise. They essentially range from 6.25 to 8.25. So if we were to go forward with external financing, just given that 6.25%, comparing it back to the 4.9 that we would be essentially losing out on the investments or the reserves, it would be approximately about 8,000, a little over 8,000. Yes, differential on that.
Yeah.
But kind of my thought on this would be, look, these are just to kind of put a order out on these.
Right.
So obviously, I'd much really prefer to have those this year. Is there going to be a good chance that we receive everything this year? Probably
Yeah,
not, but at the same time, I think we
wasn't
need
the
to prepare
longest
for it.
lead time was it 9 months, or were some of them more than that? I can't recall.
Most of them were approximately 9 months, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The
So-
service truck bed should be essentially maybe like 4 months.
It'll be
Right.
quicker.
Yes.
So basically, you can make the decision to, if the court has given you permission to purchase these two Mack trucks, you can go out for them. It may be 9 months before you get them, which puts us into next year, which gives us an opportunity to discuss this during budget.
Correct.
I think that you have the funding in your budget to purchase what comes in. If something does come in, you'll have the funding to purchase it. I say we purchase that stuff, and then we discuss the rest in budget. If the court so wishes to go out for bids for financing, we'll do so.
Well, if he cuts the purchase orders, what are the terms? Because typically they require your down payment before you ever receive the product. So
No,
you
we
would
have
have
not-
to, as soon as you issue the POs, would you have to put down
No, we would only have to pay whenever we actually
when-
receive.
upon
When you
receipt?
take-
Yes.
That's
right. Okay.
They would essentially take the signed purchase order that we would enact today
Okay.
as solid.
And so
Okay.
the reason I say that, Commissioners, is that rates may change.
Right.
And-
Absolutely.
And the opportunity may not exist in 9 months. So at that point, the court will need to make a decision as to how we want to proceed. But currently, under the current rates, I agree with the delta being 8,200. It sounds like a great idea to do. So let us go forth and purchase these, put your purchase order in, and then in 9 months, we'll be able to tell. We'll discuss this once
And-
again in budget in July, so that we can make some
I think
If you
that's what
do,
we
if
need
you're
to
able
do.
to
We
take
need to
delivery on one of these earlier, you have it in your budget.
Because we
Yes.
don't want to wait
Problem.
9 months
Yes, sir.
necessarily.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
if we have the funding in there.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right, I'll second Commissioner Kester's motion.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11, discuss and possibly act upon the purchase of a 2024 Mack truck and belly dump trailer from National Auto Fleet Group for the Engineering and Development Services Department through a state cooperative purchasing program, Sourcewell, contract number 060920 NAF.
Yes, so this would be for a tractor trailer and belly dump that would go forward with this one. The ones that we currently have in place, our oldest is approximately 550,000 miles on it, and we've been doing quite a bit of work on it as well. So this would be a replacement of that particular vehicle.
500.
And those trailers are pretty old, they're, what, 25 years old, maybe older?
We've been doing quite a bit of welding on them. Rust has definitely been showing quite a bit, yes, sir.
I think we got the useful life out of that.
I would agree, sir.
Only 500,000 miles, huh?
We run them every day, every day.
Goodness gracious.
I make a motion to purchase 2024 Mack truck and belly dump trailer from the National Auto Fleet Group for the Engineering and Development Services Department through the State Cooperative Purchasing Program, Sourcewell Contract 060920NAF.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Josh has a question.
What's the total price for this particular?
Oh, yes, thank you very much. Total price is $194,051, $194,051.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item number 12, discuss and possibly act upon the purchase of an RKI service truck body from TER Texas for the Engineering Development Services Department.
Yeah, so this is not a state pricing. This was purely look, get as many quotes as we possibly could get. We actually did get quite a few bidders on this one, which was nice. Thank you very much for all your assistance with this, sir. We have 3 that did meet all the qualifications from our specifications for the service truck body, which would be mounted on the F-350 chassis that was approved in December 6, 2022. With this one, the low bidder would be with TER Texas at $43,245.
I'll move upon the purchase of an RKI service truck body from TER Texas for the Engineering and Development Service Department.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I just have a question. This truck, this body right here, you're gonna be able to get this sooner, right?
Soon.
Yes, sir. This is probably going to be about a 4-month turnaround. Yes.
Yeah, it's,
And he's got the money in his
Yeah,
budget.
they've got some money.
You've already got
it'll be here for
already
the
got
truck
truck
gets
for
here,
it.
I think.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion?
No?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. Item number 13, presentation of the following monthly reports. County Clerk's Report.
Very quickly, we'll go to the graphs. As good a month as March was, April was not as good. So everything across the board was down. I'm just gonna have to be honest about that. So we took in about $30,000 less than the previous month. Moving on to official public records, that was down as well. Of course, you would expect that if we're down across the board. Although we did have more plats filed in April than we did any previous month this year. And that continues to rise overall. With regard to criminal cases, we had more disposed than filed for the month of April. And we are now at 91% compliance for CJIS, and I'm real proud of Nick Prenzler, my office, for keeping up with that. He has been up in Renee's office as well, helping Nicole to keep her part of the list clean and keeping track of all, who needs to dispose and go in to CJIS and clean that up. So that is good. We came from being down in the 80% to 80s to now 91%. And
But is that just the misdemeanors, or is that?
That's
felon-
just
Okay,
misdemeanors,
that's
right?
just-
Felonies will be through the district
Yeah,
court.
because sometimes they lump us together when we get the reports.
Oh, yeah. No, they are a little bit higher than we are with felonies, so. Civil cases, that filing was down as well for the month of April. Moving on to guardianships, there were 3 guardianships filed in the month of April. And overall, we're about at 275 active guardianships right now for this county, which for a county our size is quite a large
It's
number.
significant.
But due to us having a state school here, State Supported Living Center, we do have a lot of guardianships for a rural county our size. Probate cases, that filing was down as well for the month of April overall compared to the other months. Births were down as well. I mean, it was just everything across the board was less in the month of April, as well as deaths. The number of deaths were down, which that's a good thing. Marriage licenses, that kind of ebbs and flows. That was down just a little bit, but not too much. And then I've had something in the newspaper about fraud alert again. And so that, you know, we tend to get, when there's something out there, a little bit more, generates more interest with people. So that's my report for the month.
Thank you.
I'm glad to see that fraud alert go up some. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, that still doesn't have mine in it, and I guess it's just
I can
confession
assist
every
you with
Tuesday.
that. I can assist you with that.
Yeah, I think I need to get that done. Lord knows. Nobody wants to steal my stuff. They don't want to be me.
Okay. And next, district clerk's report. Any questions or discussion about the district clerk's report?
I don't have any.
Okay. Justice of the Peace report. Any discussion about the Justice of the Peace report? Okay. Auditor's report. Ms. Dyer?
Good morning.
So on revenue, we have an overall of about 69% remaining to collect, which is about right on track where it should be. Expenses overall, about 68% remaining to expend. Total sales tax collected for April is $369,776.63. compared to April of '22 at $280,903. So that's about a 22% increase over last year. Total sales tax collected for the whole year compared to last year is 15% higher. So we're doing pretty good there.
All that new retail.
Yeah.
Doing that.
Which is good for the constituency.
Absolutely.
Is there any questions?
Any questions or discussion of the auditor's report? Thank you.
All right.
I have no questions.
Tax assessor collector's report?
Looks like we're caught up on training.
Yes.
Sign is down.
Treasurer's report?
Just to let you know, I think I mentioned this last month that the new rates were, they're effective May the 1st. So you'll see next month a difference in the money market, you know, as far as the daily, the rate and stuff. We're doing
Okay.
some different investing and stuff to even enhance the rates that we're getting, so. But everything balances, it's all good.
Very good. Any discussion of the treasurer's report? Okay, constable's report. Any discussion of the constable's report? Elections, Ms. Jackson?
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I don't have just a lot on my report. We continue to process daily reports on team and voter registration, and we process and scan and sync everything over the counter and any correspondence for voter registration. And if you look at the voter registration report, it shows that we've had a increase of voters, as usual, in every commissioner's precinct, which is good. Now, here's the thing, with the new registrations in Washington County, if you look at the bottom of that report, it's 154 new registered voters, but there were only 47. The difference was from last month and this month was like 47. That's because people continue to move in and out of the county, so therefore it doesn't show as large as an increase as really happened. Also, office attend weekly election-related webinars as provided by the Secretary of State. We had the early voting ballot board procedures, Central County State station procedures, and any corrections to ballot by mails that was needed by the voters. So we attended those webinars. Also, we conducted the early voting for the May 6th election, joint election, which was held with the City of Brenham, Brenham ISD, and Blinn College, the City of Burton, Burton ISD, Blinn College, and Giddings ISD and Blinn. And we had for early voting, we had a 12% turnout. Okay, and then on election day, which was May 6th, because early voting the election started in April, May 6th was the election day, and we had about a 4% turnout. So altogether, we had about a 16% turnout in that election. I can say that it was a pretty smooth election, no serious problems or anything, but it was a really good election.
Just curiosity, can you tell, or do you have any way of knowing how many people use the electronic voting device as opposed to?
Yeah, I think maybe about 15% out of 4,000 voters. So we're over 1,000 votes by using that express vote, which was really good. It was a really good turnout for that.
Just kind of wondering how that was taken.
Yeah, everybody, it's just a ballot marking device. Sometimes when people hear electronic voting, it's like, oh, okay, I know, I need to see mine. Well, it's a paper ballot.
It's a paper ballot.
It's actually a paper ballot, and you're just marking your ballot, and you can look at it. You can view it before you print it out. You can view it after you print it out. You'll see just the candidates that you voted for. And then we have the DS200, where they actually cast their ballot, which is a ballot box. And we have less issues with that because it just reads the ballot, and it counts it, tabulates it right then. Whereas and I'm not promoting anything, but with the regular paper ballot that you mark with a pen, if you miss a race, it stops you, and you have to talk to the voter. And sometimes you even have to view the ballot. And I feel like it doesn't promote as much privacy as marking the ballot with the express vote. But we had a good turnout either way. It was really good.
I will say I still like the pencil in my hand, even though I like electronic everything else. I want to be able to see that bubble be marked in with my.
You can see that.
I know I
You
can.
can still see it.
I just
Yeah.
prefer it the other
There
way.
was I got a lot of text
Call me
messages
crazy.
regarding the electronic ballot. There was a lot of
Let nobody else
misconception.
touch my ballot.
They didn't realize that they could print it out and actually physically
Yeah,
see it.
a lot of people think that you cast your vote. It's like it never prints out. It just, it's just tabulated right
I
there.
used the wrong term. I said electronic voting. That's just a term, and that's the wrong
I
term.
know.
It's electronic marking of your ballot.
Yeah, it's a ballot marking device. It definitely is a ballot marking device. And we had some people that, it's like, I would never, but then we had just as many that says, oh, of course, I didn't know you guys had that. And a lot of those people has moved into Washington County, and they really like it. And I have to say that there's a lot of people my age and older that use that ballot marking device, that express vote. I'm like, okay. And they really liked it, so.
Easy to do.
Well, and I had to be trained on how to put my ballot in the count.
Well, yes, you did, because you,
Yes, 'cause I've never done that before. I've never voted early, which I did, so I've done a lot of new things.
And
I
that-
just need to slow up. I'm getting used to doing new things. That's my first time to
So
ever
that
vote
was sure
early.
big of you to do
Yeah.
that. You know?
If I would have been
It's
out of
good,
town,
yeah.
I wouldn't have voted early.
good experience.
Yes.
It's okay with
So-
change. Yeah.
And so
It's good.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
I know I just have a distinct. I have an opinion that this next election in 2024 is going to be very crowded. Yeah, it's going to be a tough
Turnout.
election. I think there's going to be a great turnout, and I think
Definitely.
that. Are you guys having to prepare for that early? Because March is, everybody thinks it's
Yeah.
like a year away, but
It's
March
not.
is not that far away. And especially in terms of being ready for it, because the number of people, the things like that.
Right.
I know you've got to be thinking about that, right?
Absolutely. I'm preparing, and the state is preparing us for 2024 as well as probably the November 2023. So when you have elections, it never stops.
No.
It never stops at all. You're always learning more things. You got legislation, that we have to implement, changes. So it never stops. So we're always preparing. You cannot start preparing for an election like 2 months, 3 months in advance. There's just no way possible. It's always about 4 months, 5 months, and getting things done. And especially when you're preparing for a large election like the primary in 2024, and then you have a small one that's coming up, most likely in November. So you just got to get on board and keep it moving.
As I told you previously, this is the first time since I've been in office that I did not have a call either way about the election. Somebody had a better way, or didn't like the way it was done, or
Yeah.
they weren't treated fairly. Somebody always has something. This is the first time that I did not have that at all. It's never been huge. There's
Right.
always a call or two. So anyway, I compliment you on running a
Thank you.
smooth election.
Appreciate it.
Okay, anything else?
Right.
Any other discussion? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, the Veterans Report, Mr. Purcell.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
So we have a little bit more information to provide to you today. We got some numbers in from the VA that's going to tell us what our overall veterans numbers are in the county, as well as the overall, money received as far as support of those veterans in different ways. So the first thing I have is our normal monthly report. We had 198 contacts last month and 55 forms completed on behalf of veterans and their dependents. Working with the Brenham Honor Guard, we folded 2 flags for veterans Walden Krinke and Adolph Schaefer. Before I move on to the annual report, I want to mention that we have a Memorial Day service coming up next Monday. That's going to be at the American Legion Hall. I think they're serving barbecue. There'll be a cakewalk. Have any of you participated in the cakewalk before?
It's been a long time.
Yeah. So great time to pick up something.
I like cake.
Me too.
Yeah.
But that'll be kicking off at 11 a.m., I think, over at the American Legion Hall, across from the F-111 monument. Turning the page over to Veterans Trends, you'll see in the year 2023 that we're in, we have an average of 73 forms completed on behalf of veterans and dependents. That's where we stand on the year, and 225 contacts to the right of that. You'll also note in the year 2022, because we're about a year and a half ahead of how long it takes the VA to compile the numbers on what we receive as far as our veterans, as far as what they receive from the VA, and that stands at nearly $21.5 million. And you'll also note that the number of veterans in the county went down to 1,909. So that 1,909 is really reflective of the impact, I think. This is just me speculating of COVID, and it hitting older populations. But that's significant.
That is a big jump.
I wasn't expecting that. If you turn the page over, you'll see the 2022 annual report. And what that number means, that nearly $21.5 million, what that means broken down in different groups of compensation and pension, which I help a lot with, our veterans, education and vocational rehabilitation, I help some with that. Blinn has a big piece to play in that as well, as far as veterans using their GI Bill benefits, insurance and indemnities. Then you'll see on the far right, medical care and unique patients. Unique patients went down. I think that's also representative of the veteran population decline. Below these numbers that's really kind of the definition of, and more detail about what they represent. Any questions?
Well, while the population went down, the compensation went up.
Increased.
Yes, sir.
Total
Yep.
expenditure went up significantly.
Thank you very much for your fine report, always.
Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Mr. Purcell.
Thank you, Mr. Purcell.
Charlie, did you have something?
What was the change in the population? You mentioned it went way down.
Yeah, it went, we roughly lost, what is it,
Now tonight?
128. Don't quote me on that. I can get you the numbers after this.
What was-
Charlie, it went
It's
from,
200.
it went from 2136 down to 1909.
That's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Item number 14, discuss and possibly act upon the approval of purchasing WatchGuard video equipment, including body cameras, in-car camera systems, and required licenses for the required licenses for the Sheriff's Office, Constable's Office, and Emergency Medical Services with American Rescue Plan funds.
Judge, Commissioners, good morning. This request, I think you knew it was going to be coming. We discussed it last year during the ARPA fund request sessions. And it includes completing we had a project to phase in and do some testing on this equipment. So this is the phase 2 of it, and that is getting body-worn cameras, in-car cameras, and associated licenses for the Sheriff's Office, for the Constable's Office, and also body-worn cameras for EMS. We're making the purchase request under the Houston Galveston Area Council Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, and it's contract EF 0421. That's the same contract we used last time. We got about a 30% discount last time. This time it's going to be about 39%. We requested a legacy discount because we're moving from Safety Vision to the WatchGuard video solution, and so they extended us an additional discount, which is good because the equipment and the license have gone up several percentage points. A lot of that is actually due to the backlog of supply that they've had. So it looks like because of some of the challenges we had with the first project, they'll be able to expedite this purchase. So instead of a 8-week turnaround, we're hoping for getting the equipment in prior to our actual cutover to the system, which is going to be in late July. That's tentatively right now. And I just want to point out the contract on paper had expired on 3/31/2023, but there was a contract extension that was brought to our attention by HGAC, and they showed us that, so we're in compliance. This request has actually been approved by GrantWorks, our grant administrator. If you can, please turn to the second page, which is under the quote section number 5. There is one typo. It says the Washington County Emergency Management Services. That should be medical services, just like it is in the actual agenda item. So that was just an administrative typo. At the bottom of that section, you'll notice the total purchase request for all 3 quotes is $200,236.86. Okay, this is about $12,000 more than the original request that was made during last July. The increase is actually due to those cost increases that we've seen. Okay, and actually that's it. So William Bass of GrantWorks has actually seen the packet, he's approved it, and allowed us to move forward.
Great. I make a motion to approve purchasing WatchGuard video equipment, including body cameras and car camera systems and required licenses for the Sheriff's Office, Constable's Office, and Emergency Medical Services with American Rescue Plan funds.
I second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
I would just say that the breakout for that is $122,447 for the Sheriff's Office, $51,892 for the constables, and $25,897. That gets us to the total of over the $200,000.
Yeah. And I'll just go ahead and plug this in. I've had some conversations with Mr. Harris about we need to look at this summer when we're in budget, figuring out how much we need to start plugging for future
Maintenance.
replacement. Yeah.
We had a discussion ultimately on the emergency replacement plan, and this is going to be one piece of the master plan for replacing equipment. Ultimately, what it looks like it's going to require is we look at it it's either going to be a 10-year or a 20-year equipment replacement plan. I've experienced doing this, and ultimately what you do is you seed the fund, and then you add to it every year, and then the fund is used to pay for not only the maintenance moving forward, but also to pay for any equipment failures or upgrades that we need to make, meaning that we will obviously be increasing the number of body-worn cameras and the number of in-car camera systems, and that fund will allow us to do that.
And you'll be bringing that to us during budget,
That's correct, yes, sir.
With an estimate of what that fund needs to look like.
Yes, sir. What the request is going to be will be to utilize ARPA funds to seed the fund, meaning that put the first 25% or maybe even 50% of the fund, and then we add anywhere from 5 to 10% per year to the fund. So it's ultimately a fund balance, and we'll use the fund balance to pay for the support and for additional equipment or equipment that's been destroyed that needs to be replaced.
All right. Is there any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 15, presentation of the Information Technology Quarterly Report.
There's a lot of ground to cover, so I'm going to be moving pretty fast. I do want to touch base on a lot of these activities, specifically the projects. We've completed 5 projects since the last report in February. Expo server rack, we had to actually rebuild and reconfigure all of the fiber for the main rack at the Expo facility. This was in preparation to the PA system coming in, because we're going to be putting equipment for the PA system that runs the entire public addressing system at the Expo into that rack, and that's actually in the event center. Project number 117, EMS One Wireless Network Build-Out. This is ultimately the model and the framework for all the wireless build-outs and improvements that we have to make for all the EMS sites. Project number 194, that's the Commissioner's Court Recording System. This was a new project, but it was also completed since the last report, and that is, as you notice, the cameras in this courtroom. Those cameras allow us to record for publishing to YouTube, which we've been doing now for about a month, and we'll continue doing that moving forward. Project number 196 is the paging setup for the Annex EDS and the Expo. When we migrated and moved to the new network infrastructure, it affected our paging abilities, and we were actually made the decision to wait for the new telephone system. That project has been delayed, and as such, I needed to find a way to resolve paging at those sites. We were able to fortunately utilize repurposed equipment that we actually had on hand that we were about to decommission in order to do that. And the reason that this is important is because the paging system is utilized during emergency management notifications for those locations. So for example, when Director Doremus goes around and does a mock emergency, they'll use the paging system to do that. So this actually got us back on track for that. That project was also, it's new, but it was completed since the last report. Microsoft upgrades, it's block and tackle stuff, but very important. We had some versions of 2010 and 2013, which are now deprecated, we had to replace, and it was a substantial project. It was about 56 implementations. On the new projects, we actually had 7 new projects. I'm going to go through this very quickly. Camera installations for elections. This is the request from the elections office to put cameras in place here in the courthouse to support elections. Project number 193, Prairie Hill Camera and Access Control. We're co-located, our new emergency medical services building is co-located in the Prairie Hill Volunteer Fire Department. They have a camera system. It's old. We're actually putting a new system in place, and we'll actually migrate their system and their system's capabilities to our system, give them at the Volunteer Fire Department the opportunity to access those cameras as well. It's a pretty substantial implementation because they also have an annex building, which our helicopter pad is located at. And so we'll actually put a wireless line of sight shot into that annex building, and then we'll have anywhere from 4 to 6 cameras over there supporting the helicopter operations. Project 195, migrating the AT&T telephone circuit. As a result of our WebEx calling project taking longer than expected, we had to, AT&T has required us to move from our current copper circuit to a fiber circuit for our, they're called trunk circuits, our telephone system's connection to the outside world, which is the public switch telephone network. We actually did a major test and turn up last night. It was scheduled. We had 36 minutes worth of downtime that we knew about, and it actually was very, very successful. So now all we have to do is port all the numbers over, and then that circuit will support us until we move over to WebEx calling, and then port all the numbers to WebEx calling. WebEx calling, of course, is our new telephone system solution.
Sounds like a Texas two-step that could have been done in one step.
Unfortunately, it's a domino thing. You got to do one thing in order to support the next. But we've made substantial progress, and I appreciate the support that we've gotten, not only from the court, but also AT&T has actually supported us well on this initiative. Project 196, the paging, as I'd mentioned. Project 197 and 198, these are the last two new projects. These are routers over at the JP and the EMS offices in Burton. We have fiber circuits. These routers will actually terminate the VPNs, and this will allow us to, and I'm using acronyms, I apologize, it'll terminate the virtual private network connections from our main our main network to those networks, and they'll actually be on network, and we'll be able to manage those two remote sites the same way we manage any other network devices that we have. And very quickly, there are just some updates. We have a very large-scale wireless connectivity project for point-to-point wireless connections out at our EMS sites. And what this will allow us to do is extend our reach and substantially increase the bandwidth to this hangar, to the new Somerville site, to the Prairie Hill site and everything. And I'm sorry?
I just said, wow.
Yeah, well, and it's also on a private band, so what it means is that we won't be contending with any interference or what have you. So we're working with ISP Supplies out of Bryan, and although this is a large project and everything, I'm pleasantly surprised with what the numbers are coming in at, and I'm pleasantly surprised with the capability of the system. We've talked about WatchGuard proof of concept. The IT WebEx calling Project 181. This ultimately is our new phone system. Please recognize that we currently have what's known as a on-premise Cisco Call Manager telephone system. We're going to be migrating those services to the cloud through WebEx calling, but it's actually part of what they call their government cloud, and it's for government entities. It allows us to utilize the majority of the equipment that we've already purchased, specifically the telephones. Most people don't realize that the majority of the expense in a telephone system are in the actual hardware components, primarily the telephone. So we're able to use the majority of our telephones for the new system, and it gives us a lot more flexibility and reach, specifically when it comes to unified communications, i.e. using your cell phone as your desktop phone, if you
And
want.
moving forward, we may not even require the actual phones, correct?
My desire, and I've actually been involved in this, is what I'd like to do is to, where it's reasonable and it makes sense, to actually migrate away from the hardware device to what's called a soft phone. And that soft phone would either be an application on your cell phone that acts as your extension here on premise, or if, like for me and my staff, we'll actually get rid of the telephones and we'll utilize an application on our computer that will handle telephone and voice communication for us, as well as voicemail support and accessing our voicemail. It just gives a unified communication look and feel, plus it allows us to get away from that hardware piece. And so, real quickly,
The largest expense.
for mobile users such as yourselves, you'll basically have an application on your phone. When your phone rings, the application will pop up, it'll show you who it is, you access it, it looks like they're calling into the telephone system at the courthouse, basically. Okay. And if you can do me a favor, please, and turn to, in the bottom left corner, you'll see the page numbers. Please turn to page 19. And on page 19, it shows our metrics. These, of course, are the metrics for our trouble ticketing system. You'll notice there was a 20% decrease in the total and closed incident tickets. These are basically break-fix pieces. This time of year, it's pretty normal, but you'll also notice that we've seen almost an 80% increase in the total number of requests and an 81% increase in the closed requests. What usually happens about this time, it's still relatively early in the year, people are putting in a lot of requests for new services, and we're actually doing at least on paper, it appears that we're doing a pretty good job of dealing with the break-fix issues and everything. So this is to be expected. And please also note that this, again, is a 3-month period from February 9th to May 18th. On the next page, on page 20, the 1-month metric for mean time to repair shows an 18% increase in the total number of incident requests, which we expected, but it also shows a decrease in the mean time to repair to 2.8 hours. And please remember, this basically is, our metric is to have it at less than 8 hours. So it basically means the incidents that are coming in, the break fixes, we're actually across the board being able to reduce those to less than 3 hours. On page 21, Technology Program Steering Committee, we have actually made the decision, and I mentioned this last time, we were looking at disbanding the Technology Program Steering Committee. 2 primary reasons. There were too many people on the original charter. It worked out well. Now, since we're actually now almost 4 years into it, we're looking at trying to minimize the number of people that are on there. And also, the original charter committee was designed to try to help us get on track. Now that we're on track, we're looking at creating a new group, a new working group, and what I'm referring to as a task force, and with a specific charter to identify technology opportunities throughout the county and create specific, measurable, and achievable goals which will lead to the fulfillment of these opportunities. So we're moving from a committee saying, hey, what's wrong, what's going on, to a task force saying, this is where we need to be headed. And this was expected. You may recall when I originally proposed the Technology Program Steering Committee, we had to figure out what was wrong. Now we're looking at finding out ways that we can innovate within technology so that we can help the rest of the county provide the services in a more automated fashion. Page 22.
Maybe that'll start with getting rid of printers.
I think there's an opportunity there. We've discussed this several times before, and I think that we probably have an opportunity to not only to reduce the number of printing devices, but reduce the way that we look at printing. The biggest, I guess, initiative that we can take, and I've been through this before, is moving from a default print to a printing device to print to a digital environment, like a print to a PDF or what have you. It's a substantial paradigm change. Many people that like the paper, it will take a little bit of time, but I think there's an opportunity there, and I think we need to truly look at it, and that's one of the things that the task force will take on. So. On page 22, this shows that our burn rate is about 40%. It's 37.5 through mid-May is what's expected. So we're pretty much on target there. And we've actually made some substantial purchases for projects that we're working on throughout the year. So I would tell you we're doing good at managing the budget. On page 23, staffing level, I'm going to go through this real quick. We had 39 candidates for the new IT specialist position, and we've broken that down to 3 face-to-face interviews. We've conducted those 3 face-to-face interviews. We believe that we're actually going to be making an offer this week. In fact, that one candidate that we're seriously looking at is in the process of completing the application for employment, and once that's done, we'll move forward working with HR to extend an offer to this candidate. But all signs are looking good. If this does not work out, then we will go back and open up that recruitment effort through Indeed again and continue to look. But I have good reason to believe that we're on track. And the desire is to try to target a July 1st or sooner start for that candidate. Okay.
Do you think this candidate will fit in with your team?
I think that the short answer is yes. I think that the candidate, you had an opportunity to interview this individual. I think that there is he has certain skills that he brings to us that we need, and he seems to have the aptitude to be open to learning more. But he comes from a very siloed and structured, larger organization environment, and sometimes when you're in a smaller environment where everybody kind of does everything, it's definitely a culture shock. I believe, based upon his experience, and certainly based upon his personality and his aptitude for technology, that it will take him a little bit of time to get adjusted to it, but I believe he'll fit well, not only within our group, but he'll be a good servant of the county. Staffing overview, right now, Sean Stevens is on track to be 100% trained by the end of the year. He's proven to be an incredible asset, and he's going to be he's at least 6 months ahead. He may be farther ahead on the training. He just is one of those very rare individuals that is consuming the training that he's been given very quickly. So we're very fortunate to have him on board. And then we are still about 3 to 6 months behind our project work. We believe that if we get this additional IT specialist on board on or before July 1st, that by the end of the year, we'll probably be very close to being on track, if not on track by that time, so caught up. We had one unscheduled network outage on April 27th. We actually had an internet outage. Very rarely do I say I wish and I'm glad that we had an outage, but I found out we'd done some work on the core router in our environment in preparation for the new firewalls that we brought in, and we found out it was my fault. I made a misprogramming that affected our secondary internet circuit from coming online automatically. And so we ended up, as a result, we bought 32 minutes worth of downtime, but it allowed me to recognize that there was a problem. We were able, during that week, we were able to resolve the problem. And then, as you may recall, we actually did a test on May 5th, and we tested for 3.5 hours to verify that the secondary internet circuit was working well. And so the automatic failover is working correctly, and I don't believe that this will happen again. But my apologies, because I had made a change for another change, and I didn't go back and test it. And so that was my fault. And that is my report.
So the WatchGuard stuff, and I hate to take you backwards, but the WatchGuard stuff, you originally presented it to this court as a proof of concept, where you were going to roll out a few of them. Now we're purchasing all of the equipment.
That's correct.
And as I was looking through the documents, it's hard not to notice that the constable's office is only going to utilize 7 of these. Would it be beneficial to do the constable's office first, so that you could still do somewhat of a proof of concept, or are you going to tackle this behemoth just right off, just pull the Band-Aid off? How are you going to tackle it?
So that's a great question. Ultimately, we had 2 phases. These projects were broken up into phase 1, which is the proof of concept, and because of turnaround time and scheduling time, it created some challenges. But based upon what we've done, the work we've done on our side from testing the systems internally and everything, I felt confident that we were ready to move to the next level. As I mentioned, we've been plagued with some substantial challenges with our current safety vision system. The biggest thing is not only the storage of the video, but the retrieval of that storage. And the Motorola solution, and we have tested this, allows us to continue to add storage as we start growing. It's not only, they use a compression algorithm that is much better, which means that it's more efficient in its storage space, but it's also more efficient in its retrieval space. And the one thing that Safety Vision has not allowed us to do is fill up our primary storage and then move to a secondary storage platform invisibly. It actually it doesn't index it correctly. And so long story short, the Motorola solution is, I feel very confident that it's the right solution for us. I also believe that what we'll end up doing, instead of rolling everything out all at once, we'll actually prioritize the rollout. And our first steps are actually going to be at the sheriff's office.
Okay. And when you talk about indexing, the court system will have access, when the sheriff gives them access to that, to view that. Is it a seamless transition to the court system? Because, instead of them having to copy it, send it to them, correct? Am I correct about that?
You are.
Okay.
So We have multiple different video formats. The most common video format is what's known as an MP4. This system allows us to export natively to MP4.
Okay.
The one thing that we may not be able to do is immediately send that MP4. It depends on who it is. If it's at the city, then we could send it to them through our network. If it's DPS, they request it, then we'll actually provide them. Typically, these files are relatively large, multiple gig and sometimes many, many gig files. And so you can't necessarily attach it as an email attachment. But what we could do is we could put that video, I'm going to retract that. The most secure way to do that is to place the video on a device such as a USB stick and then provide that USB stick directly to them.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I think operationally, we put pressure on TJ too. That's a 2-year project for the EMS office on body worn cameras, and Dr.
Yep.
Lesh has been adamant on us getting those because of the culture, the climate of
Yes.
the society that we're in on the
Right.
he said, she said. So when he brought the proof of concept of 5 to us, of course, law enforcement needs to lead that bandwagon of whatever they think is best for their operations, which is life or death. Ours may keep our patch on our shoulder, but it's typically not life or death, which
Yeah.
one it is. So once the sheriff's office agreed that body watch was the way to go, I don't need a proof of concept, I just need him on our guys.
Right.
So we probably pressured him into not doing such an in-depth proof of concept.
Well, and some of that was circumstantially that transpired with Motorola,
Yeah,
like
and the
Mr.
wait
Harris
time to get the equipment.
mentioned.
Again, not his fault, Motorola
No.
went behind forever, so we've been waiting
Yeah.
for a while on that project.
And we knew that it was going to be, there were going to be
Right.
some logistical challenges and everything we've worked through. But I would tell you, we're committed to this project. I know for a fact that we're going to be better off. We are going to have challenges like you have with any software and hardware solution, but I feel very confident that we've got not only the right staff in place, but we've also got the right customers in place to allow us to work through those issues.
And right now, we already took receipt of the first order, so some of them are being installed in the newer sheriff's office vehicles as we speak. I can't speak for
No, we need
where
to push those
Kevin's
towards the sheriff's office first.
are. So they're, like he said, it'll roll out.
Well, and I agree. I think that in the current climate, the law enforcement is an appropriate place to start with these because we do see what happens on TV and what's going on in our country. So, all right. Thank you so much, Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 16, discuss and possibly act upon the approval of accounts payable.
As always, we have, some sort of attorney fees to keep paying for different kiddos and stuff. There is the, I think they called it a shed, Kevin, for the EMS Station 5, at 7, where it was something out at the Prairie Hill office. And then a lot of this was we pay property tax. And as I kind of told y'all, it was going to go up, and it did a lot. It's like a plus 20% increase.
I have a question. On page 7, there is a, under card services for the district attorney, there's a $25 late fee.
Yes.
Why are we paying a late fee? We have commissioners court every Tuesday. We should not be paying late fees to credit cards.
Statement didn't get into us.
Well-
It's an electronic thing, and it was a switch over on some stuff, and we were waiting. It's not.
I just would say that that doesn't need to happen.
No, we've got it fixed.
I move upon the approval of accounts payable.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we will recess our special meeting and we'll reconvene in executive session in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, using your last.